Jason Shay today. Jason Shay is the new head men's basketball coach at East Tennessee State. It's an overdue hire for ETSU. Here's who he should hire. Hey everybody, it's Marky Bilson. And Jason Shay, I said as soon as Steve Forbes left for Wake Forest, he should be the head basketball coach. I see no reason why they had to do a search. It was a simple situation. You'd won 30 games before. If you can't have Forbes, have his top lieutenant. Mike Krzyzewski is not coming into ETSU. Mark Few is not coming into ETSU. And all that this supposed search did really was make ETSU basketball look slimy, because they considered Chris Jans. And here's the situation with Jans. He's a guy who 5 years ago had been fired for drunken behavior. Now you pit him up against Shay, who possibly guilt by association, but had a 1-year show cause penalty on his resume when Bruce Pearl lied about a cookout and he was fired from Tennessee along with his entire staff. So Shay was part of that staff. Again, perhaps guilt by association, but still, if you give the job to Shay directly, then it is, oh, he had nothing to do with that. If you have a search after Shay, there is a, what's wrong with Jason Shay? And it really comes down to, okay, coach who was fired for being drunk, coach who was fired and had a show cause penalty. That's who it wound up being between, and it didn't make the ETSU basketball program look very good. Shay, it looks like, is going to hire a former UAB assistant named Turner Battle. He could do far worse than Turner Battle. His resume looks pretty good. Turner Battle, in addition to being an assistant at UAB the last 6 years, had coached under Will Wade at Chattanooga. Before that, Reggie Witherspoon at Buffalo. And Battle is something of a legend at the University of Buffalo. Before he became a Bull, the Bulls had won just 14 games in the previous 3 seasons combined. By the time Battle was a senior, the Bulls were winning 23 games, and he was the MAC Player of the Year. So a very fine career for Battle. He may be coming to ETSU. That's what Joe Avento of the Johnson City Press is reporting. But there's one other coach out there that I think that Jason Shay should absolutely consider for an assistant coaching position. And that is a former graduate assistant at ETSU. He also used to coach at Bluefield. He used to coach at Science Hill. He has been for the last 3 years a women's basketball coach over at Lees-McRae. I'm talking about the greatest player to ever suit up for ETSU, and that's Keith Mr. Jennings. Did talk to him earlier this morning. Anyway, Jennings has a good thing going at Lees-McRae, and he was quick to, stress that. But he has always said that, if ETSU ever came a-calling, I definitely would listen. And here's the thing with Mr. Jennings. Usually in a college basketball coaching staff, you've got one guy out there who was a star player. Because the modern day athlete can oftentimes say, hey, why should I listen to you? You were just a junior varsity player. You didn't do it on the court. There is absolutely no one on earth who ever lived that could go to a potential recruit and say, you can play for a nationally ranked program at ETSU and make the NBA. Because that's what Mr. Jennings did, and he's the only one that can say that. Now, at Kentucky, the star assistant, and he has a pretty good reputation, is Kenny Payne. At ETSU, under Steve Forbes, it was B.J. Mackey, who may never have played in the NBA, but he was an outstanding player at South Carolina, their all-time leading scorer, and he restored the Gamecocks to national prominence, something that they had not been in more than 2 decades. It was the Frank McGuire era, really, was the last time South Carolina had been a national power. Under Mackey, they were once more. And, Penny Hardaway. Penny Hardaway himself could say, I'm that star player, just like, say, Patrick Ewing at Georgetown or Juwan Howard at Michigan. But he's got Mike Miller, who not only was a star at Florida, but played 17 years in the NBA, and former Memphis Tigers star Tony Madlock. Both of them are on his coaching staff, so that, hey, we've done it. We can show you how. Yeah, it's prevalent in college basketball. It should be prevalent at ETSU. Now, Battle is one of those type of coaches, but Jennings is so much more, because Jennings did play in the NBA. Jennings was the number 2 all-time assist leader in the history of college basketball after he left ETSU to go to the Golden State Warriors. Don't give me this, they don't remember Keith Jennings. Well, they don't remember Kenny. They don't remember Payne either. Heck, they don't remember Penny Hardaway. But it's giving you that page in the media guide and saying, wow. And it's that, you played against Michael Jordan, coach? Yes. Yes, I did. Here's how you beat the best. I did it. And so, as I said, there's nobody better that could create an identity as a basketball powerhouse for ETSU and bridge the 2 great eras, contemporary and historically, like Mr. Jennings. And I know that, Murray Bartow years ago, after he had him as a grad assistant, supposedly he did not give him a good reference. So what? That's Murray Bartow. Here's the reference I'm going to give Keith Jennings. Jennings, for the last 3 years, like I said, has coached at Lees-McRae. The one-loss record hasn't been all that good. But you got to remember, this is Lees-McRae. And to give you an example, Lees-McRae was 4-24 the year before Keith Jennings took over. His first season, they were 10-17. His second, 14-15. That was the most games that Lees-McRae had won in a grand total of 15 years. They had not won 14 games in a season since 2004. Last year regressed a bit, 8-22. That's not a record to write home about, I admit it. But you got to remember this: he had 6 different freshmen who started and 3 different sophomores up there in Banner Elk. He had 2 seniors on his entire roster. They played combined 16 minutes, not in a game, for the entire season. So he had a team that was basically right out of high school. Remember, ETSU fans, how the team that was right out of high school did on the football field? It was an embarrassment. At 2-9, they could only beat, just horrible teams and such. Keith Jennings actually had a team that was very similar to that on the basketball court last year, and he won 8 games. Admittedly D2, but still, ETSU that first year was losing to D3s, don't forget. Anyhow, one other thing is that Battle and Jennings do have something in common. Battle, of course, coached under Wade at Chattanooga, like I mentioned, and Steve Harden, who was the men's basketball coach, is the men's basketball coach at Lees-McRae, on his online bio has glowing praise from Will Wade, the LSU coach, on that bio page. You can see it at the Lees-McRae website. And I mention this because, of course, before becoming the women's coach, Jennings was an assistant to Harden at Lees-McRae. And if you followed ETSU basketball in recent times, you will remember December 1st, 2016, Lees-McRae came to Johnson City. The Bucks were 6-1 on their way to the NCAA tournament. The Bobcats were 1-6. With 1:31 left in the basketball game, the score was Lees-McRae 80, ETSU 79. And while the Bucks did win the game 85-79, you tell me, what coaching staff did a better job that day? Now, like I said, the experience, this is ETSU, this can be a basketball power, you can come here, and also teaching the gospel of Don Nelson, which I would think Jason Shay, a former Iowa Hawkeyes player, might actually be interested in. You can't go wrong there. Now, I do realize, look, two things I should say. You never know if the personalities are going to mesh. Jennings and Shay are about the same age. Jennings a couple of years older, but not much. It's, once you get to 51 and 47, that's not that big of a deal in the, age bracket and all that. It's not the difference between being 8 and 4, certainly, okay? But nevertheless, you don't know if they'll get along. Maybe their basketball philosophies are different. Okay, you've always got that. That could be the case. So I'm not saying definitely, absolutely, Jason Shay is a bonehead if he doesn't hire Mr. Jennings. No, I won't go that far. But I do think that he should be given strong consideration for the assistant coaching position at ETSU. That star position. Say you already have the player that was good. Well, Jennings, he was in the NBA. That's big. And besides, Mike Krzyzewski over at Duke, he's got a couple of his former stars on his staff. In addition to Payne, John Calipari at Kentucky has a former 4-year starter of his from Massachusetts on his staff. So good players on the coaching staff of many of college basketball powerhouses. You've got two guys you could put on now. Jason Shay, consider Mr. Jennings for a spot on your assistant coaching staff. If you like what I have to say, or if you don't, you're not going to get better ETSU analysis than right here. Okay, I'm Slap Maxwell, tooting my own horn, I guess. But nevertheless, there's a reference in the past, Slap Maxwell. You like that? Here's what you do. My YouTube channel, I want you to subscribe to it. I want you to hit the bell. I'm putting content up all the time. 1,200 videos on there, including an ETSU playlist, including interviews, not only with Jason Shay, but Mr. Jennings as well. So he talks about beating NC State back in 1990. I've got the interview with him right there on my YouTube channel. So check it out, and be sure to follow me on YouTube, also Twitter if you'd like. Until next time, I'm Marky Bilson.